friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you haven't been here before. I'm Erin, and for today's Vlogmas video, we are going to be talking about urban legends that are true. So we've all heard urban legends such as like getting kidnapped and having your kidney cut out and people selling it on the black market and stuff like that. And a lot of urban legends, they're just that, they're legends. There are a few urban legends that actually turned out to be true, and that's what today's video is about. So this first one I've heard over and over again, and truth be told, every time I go in a hotel, I do check. And that is that people leave dead bodies under the bed in the hotel. Now, this has actually happened in several states and cities, including Las Vegas, Atlantic City, some places in Florida, as well as in California too. So that's a lot of dead bodies hanging out under beds. Now the weird thing is, these people who actually end up reporting that they either find or they feel like they smell a dead body actually make it through the night and then report it in the morning that they think that there's an issue. Now if it were me, well, like I said, I check, so it would be right away that I would know. But if it were me, I wouldn't be hanging out in some stinky hotel room. I'd be like, your room stinks, there's either somebody rotting away in here or something is wrong. But anyway, if you notice nowadays, most hotel room beds, they're boxed off on the bottom. And this is part of the reason why. Now, speaking of dead bodies, I know this is a real ray of sunshine video, but the next urban legend is actually about being buried alive. This actually happened more frequently than one may think, especially in the 19th century. Now, the whole idea behind this absolutely terrifies me. That is like my worst nightmare, is being buried alive. So I was not happy to find out that this has actually happened. So a lot of people in the 19th century, when they were buried in what they called safety coffins. Now these coffins would have either a flag or a bell with like a string or some rope, something for the person in the casket to pull if they were still alive. So they would pull it and a bell up top would ring or a flag would raise, and this is where the term "saved by the bell" came from. So obviously this has happened, and the thought of that just absolutely terrifies me. Can you imagine waking up and being like, oh my god, they buried me alive? I don't even like to think about it. So the next urban legend has to do with having a killer in your attic. I didn't think that this type of thing happened all that much with people living in your attic, but as of late I've seen many videos of either robbers or weirdos hanging out in people's attics. The most recent one I saw was some woman was in some guy's apartment attic. She would come out in a hole over top of whereby his refrigerator was. It was quite disgusting. She would come down, use the sink as her bathroom, eat his food, etc., etc. And he didn't know that she was there until he actually caught her on tape. And that's freaking scary. Obviously they did eventually get her, and she didn't do any harm to him, but she was living in his damn attic. That's pretty crazy. Much like that story with this urban legend, a lot of times people hear bumps in their attic or mysterious footsteps are heard. And then of course there's things being moved around your home, which makes you think that somebody is in there that should not have been. Well, in 1922, the German Gruber family had a farm. Now, they began to see footprints and have things go missing, such as keys, as well as began to hear footsteps in the attic. Now, much like other people, they probably brushed it off to there being an animal or some kind of critter up there, but that doesn't seem to be the case in this. The Gruber family was actually murdered. So a husband, a wife, a daughter, and 2 grandchildren were murdered with some type of pickaxe type tool. And then their bodies were found 4 days later. Now, the scary thing about this is apparently the murderer's identity is still contested to this day. So they don't know whether or not they actually caught who did this heinous crime. So next time you hear, footsteps in the attic, might want to think twice. There could be somebody up there. That's really creepy. I don't like to think about that. So the next one, growing up in New York, I heard about, which is there are alligators in the sewers. Now, living down south like I am now, this idea is not so far-fetched. I live in North Carolina, which is where alligators start to hang out. There are some here in the area where I am. I am on the coast of North Carolina. Obviously, the further south you go, the more prominent alligators can be, especially in Florida. So it's not too far-fetched to say that there's alligators living in the sewer here. Now, that being said, like I said, where I heard this from is when I lived in New York. And you used to hear, oh, well, there's giant rats and alligators living in the sewers of New York City. And while that part of the legend this is one of those legends that's kind of true, but not really. Obviously, an alligator is not going to survive a New York winter. Anybody who has lived in New York and gone through a New York winter knows that it gets pretty damn cold up there, even in the city. So an alligator couldn't necessarily survive. Now, that being said, does not necessarily mean that people aren't releasing pets they're not supposed to have down into those sewers. So theoretically, there could be an alligator or something living in there for a short period of time, like over the spring and summer, but the chances of them surviving through the winter are kind of slim to none. Now, what makes this a true urban legend is that apparently in 2010, they actually did catch a juvenile alligator in the sewer in New York City that had escaped. So there you go. Can it happen? Yes. The chances of it surviving, probably not so much through the winter. So the next urban legend is the Craigslist killer. Now, if you're like me and you like Lifetime, you go, well, this isn't an urban legend because there was a Craigslist killer. And indeed there was. So pretty much it's exactly what you would think. You go meet somebody to buy something off Craigslist and they end up killing you. Real happy thought, I know. Now, in 2009, there really was a Craigslist killer, and this is exactly what he did. He would lure women to him to buy something and he would end up murdering them. And of course, there are other people who are equally as devious and they will rob people, etc. when they go to pick up items that they are buying online. This is why it is so important if you do decide to buy something off of Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, whatever, that you go to a place that is open and in public where there are people around so you can be seen having this interaction. I know there are several police stations who actually have places that have surveillance where you can meet to exchange things or buy things from online so you can have a little bit more peace of mind. Like I said though, don't go by yourself. Don't go to like some random person's house. Obviously, use common sense, be in a public place, have somebody go with you. At least let somebody know what you're going to do. So in case anything, God forbid, does happen, somebody will have a clue as to what's going on. Alright, so this next urban legend has to do with Cropsey. Now, you may have heard this before because it was a show on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's still there or not. I'm pretty sure it probably is. Kind of like a documentary. And obviously that is why this is included in True Urban Legends. So pretty much the urban legend goes that an escaped mental patient lives in an abandoned institution and sneaks out at night and murders children. So, you know, your classic boogeyman story. And it is pretty well known in the Northeast, especially on Staten Island. And the reason is because this urban legend is true. Anyway, Andre Rand was a janitor for the Willowbrook State School in Staten Island. Now, this school was shut down in 1987. However, locals reported that they still saw somebody on the grounds walking around. It almost seemed as if this person was living on the grounds. This is around the same time when kids began to go missing off the island. Eventually, an investigation led to Rand being found living on the grounds of this school, and said investigation eventually led to him being arrested for the kidnapping and murder of an 8-year-old child. He was also later convicted of another murder. Apparently, they feel like there may have been many more murders that Rand had taken part in. However, he was never convicted for those murders. They actually were never brought to trial because I guess they didn't have enough evidence to prove that it was actually him. Now, we all know this is Vlogmas, so we have to have some kind of Christmas or holiday themed part in this video. So the next one is the urban legend of Santa getting stuck. So the urban legend says that a man dressed as Santa typically tries to come down a family's chimney to hand out gifts to the children and the family. However, he gets stuck and isn't found until days later. Pretty unfortunate, you would think. Well, apparently there actually was a man known as the Santa burglar. He actually did try to break into people's houses by going through their chimneys. Unfortunately for him, he ended up getting trapped and dying trying to break into a house. So, not a good way to try to break into houses, to imitate Santa Claus. Only Santa Claus can be the one to get down chimneys without getting stuck or in peril, clearly. So, what did you think of these urban legends? I definitely think they're creepy, and I think it's creepier that they're true. But that is it for today's video, guys. If you liked it, go ahead and give me a big old thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you see all my Vlogmas videos, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!